President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, first of all, it's just not a CPAC without you down here. I missed you at the gym. There I was working out. I usually see you doing your arm day, and you weren't there.
Well, I hope you did some extra sets in lieu of that.
I didn't know. See, you're inspiring. I always like it when you're on one side and Bongino's on the other, and I'm like, all right, let's have at it, gentlemen. Let's go. But that said, what a day yesterday in the United States Senate as FBI Director Christopher Wray gave sworn testimony. And why don't you set the stage here, because the showdown between he and Senator Cruz was really quite something to see.
Yes, well, there was this document that Project Veritas obtained from a whistleblower showing that our entire national security apparatus, at least the domestic part of it, was concerned about violent extremism, as always, and the target is the right, and they listed a whole host of patriotic symbols as being an indicator of this threat to our nation, including the Gadsden flag, which is the famous one of the snake, who "Don't tread on me."
Sure.
And then Ted Cruz took off his boot for highlighting that he keeps the Gonzales flag, which is also on the list of dubious symbols, which is "Come and take it" with the cannon from the Texas Revolution. And Director Wray had no good answers because he pretended not to have known about the document, so in that sense, it was more of the same. But at least Senator Cruz gave outrage, or provided some leadership to show the outrage that Americans have when their FBI is targeting them for believing in the founding. Practically speaking.
Literally, including the Betsy Ross flag. Patrice, let me just tell you something. Looking at the list of objectionable and terrorist affiliated...
Oh, yes, the Betsy Ross flag.
Yeah.
Which is if people don't know what it is off the top of their head, it's the flag with a circle of stars celebrating the 13 colonies.
If you walk around the floor here at CPAC, let me tell you something. That's all you see are these iconic patriotic images, and for the FBI to now categorize them as terrorist symbols it shows their bias, that they really think that the conservative Americans are the threat.
When Garland first came out with this memo last year talking about parents being a threat because they were concerned about what their kids were being taught, and they were going to school boards and talking about it. Wray kind of after the fact said, well, I didn't know about this before it happened, and we support the First Amendment. But then you see documents like this going on, where they want to treat patriots as terrorists and make everyday Americans who kind of want to use the symbols of the founding as a kind of way to express their dissatisfaction in protests and such, to kind of scare people off from doing that.
Absolutely.
And it's a sword of Damocles over the First Amendment, or that's what they would like us to believe.
Tom, one of the other big narratives that I noticed coming out of yesterday's hearing is just, can we trust the FBI agents themselves? There was an interesting discussion or exchange with Marsha Blackburn asking about whether the Russian collusion was a hoax or, the kind of the Hunter Biden laptop being disinformation. I think that came up a couple of different times. Do you think that that Wray did a good job in restoring some trust in those at the bottom of the ranks and all the way up with the American people?
No. The American people see that when the FBI agents commit misconduct, there isn't much in the way of accountability. You had new information coming out from Senator Grassley, who's has been around forever and knows bad stuff when he sees it. Whistleblowers came to him and said that you had FBI agents acting a month or two before the election, essentially to help Joe Biden by suppressing Hunter Biden material and maybe potentially working with Congress to target Grassley's own investigation into what Hunter was doing.
But Tom,
does it get any worse than that? Well, we kind of did with Strzok and Lisa Page. More of the same, no punishment, and Ray's sitting there. It's like as Rome burns.
Oh no, Director Wray said, Christopher Wray said yesterday that it's deeply troubling that there are reports that there may be bias in the FBI helping Hunter Biden, and it's deeply troubling to him, Tom. See, he's on top of the case. Everything's fine. He finds it troubling, deeply.
And to Patrice's point, I don't believe the FBI is redeemable. I believe the agency is rife through and through with this "we can do no wrong" ethic. We can do what we want ethic. And the agency needs a significant overhaul. And I only say this half jokingly. If Congress is serious about it, they cut the budget of the FBI in half. To start, there's got to be some serious top-to-bottom reform, to put it mildly.
Well, I think a perfect example of that is what happened in Michigan and the case against the alleged kidnapping attempt of Governor Gretchen Whitmer, especially considering the timing and how that story was used, again, as a political weapon against Donald Trump and supporters of Donald Trump in a state, Michigan, by the way, which was a very important state in the 2020 election. Christopher Wray was asked very directly by Ted Cruz about that and about the agent in charge in Detroit during that investigation. This exchange is important. We're gonna hear it next. It's a good and important exchange with regard to the state of the FBI and how it permeates down into investigations going on right now here in Washington D.C. Tom, I'm told you can stick with us, so have another shot at espresso real fast. We're going to get into that
later this morning on the Chris Plant Show. Democrats fighting for monkeypox vaccine equity for gay Latinx men. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
And I'm going to say in conclusion. You have been phenomenal in responding to me and engaging with me on staff diversity, especially getting women and minorities.
Oh, there we go. All right, that's enough. Senator Cory Booker, Tom Fitton, is praising Christopher Wray because of all the diversity. So there. See, there's some good stuff going on at the FBI. We got diversity.
I'm good to see that Senator Booker's still there.
All right, let's get into this exchange with Ted Cruz. It's really good. This is cut 3 there, Michael, and this has to do with the agent in charge of what was clearly a debacle in the investigation over the alleged kidnapping attempt of Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and then listen to what we've learned now about the agent in charge in Detroit.
That case ended up an absolute debacle where the 4 people who went to trial, 2 of them were acquitted, 2 received mistrials. None of them were convicted on even a single charge, and the basis of the defense was entrapment, that the FBI, that paid enforcements for the FBI, had suggested and had incited the conduct. Let me ask you, how many FBI agents were disciplined or reprimanded after that disastrous case and the misconduct that led to every defendant being acquitted or having a mistrial on every charge?
Senator, I can't comment on a personnel matter. I can tell you that case, as I understand it, is now pending a retrial, as I understand it.
Well, the special agent in charge of that case has now been sent to D.C., to the Washington D.C. office, and now leads the investigation regarding January 6th. Is that correct?
That doesn't sound right to me.
That does not sound right. The name of the individual is Stephen D'Antuono. He was run out of the FBI Detroit field office. And by the way, I will point out that the lead investigator, Special Agent Track, are you aware that he was apparently fired for allegedly beating his wife after coming home from a swingers party, and he'd made multiple derogatory political posts about President Trump showing political bias? Are you aware of that?
I am aware of, I think, the incident you're describing and action that was taken about it. To clarify on the first part of your question, Mr. D'Antuono was the special agent in charge of the office, the Detroit field office, and is now the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office. I thought you were asking about the agent who.
There you go. All right, that's enough. Because they need answers and everything. But first of all, setting aside the other agent involved in Michigan who had the troubling behavior with his wife, the guy who was in charge of the Detroit office for the Governor Whitmer kidnap investigation is now here in D.C., and he's involved in the January 6th investigation. I mean, Tom Fitton, no wonder people have lost trust.
Well, in government bureaucracies, typically in the private sector, you fail in your job, you don't get promotions. But in the FBI, In the case of what happened with Whitmer, we have rather obvious misconduct, and that came out largely in trial. But the agency knew what was going on because they engaged in the entrapment, and so that's rewarded. And now he's in the sensitive position, running in large measure the most important agency office in the FBI, which is the Washington field office, and. What we're told now is the biggest investigation the FBI and Justice Department has ever had, which is the investigation into the January 6th disturbance, which we're now told it requires more resources than investigating 9/11.
That's incredible. I mean, do we think that we're ever going to get to the bottom of January 6th? And do you have a sense of what the FBI's role in January 6th was to begin with? Because I think that there are some people who believe that there were FBI agents that were kind of fanning the flames. Whether that's true or not, whether they were undercover or not, I don't know. But do we think that we'll ever actually understand what happened?
Well, we'll always get more of the truth as time goes on. There's been a modified limited hangout that federal informants were present and very much there on January 6th. What I'm more concerned about is the behavior of the Capitol Police, the maltraining, the mishandling of, the shooting death of Ashley Babbitt, for instance. And why it is that this Justice Department and the FBI, forget about what happened in January 6th, but using January 6th as a pretext to suppress the free speech of Americans who were caught up in the riot, and not in any way that would, in my view, require federal intervention or prosecution. When you've got a few hundred people, it looks like, may have been involved in some violence, but they're targeting, according to Wray, they want to target nearly 1,000 people. You have to ask what's going on here.
Tom, you guys do such great work at Judicial Watch, obviously, and we love it and we appreciate it so much because so many of these stories wouldn't see the light of day if it weren't for you. Are you feeling any pressure here with this Justice Department, or is it that much? Listen, it wasn't that easy for you to get a lot of documents, sadly, during the Trump administration even. What's it like for you guys right now with this regime?
Well, sadly, it hasn't changed. They fight us the way, frankly, the Trump Justice Department fought us, which is an indictment, frankly, of Sessions and Barr and their refusal to, be transparent or advocate for transparency. Now, that being said, the president personally was very involved in transparency, and so we were able to get access to more information, Judicial Watch and others concerned about what was going on. We don't have that here. And, these days we have to sue for the time of day. Yeah. And, the Hunter Biden issue, for instance, the Secret Service is hiding records, the State Department's hiding records. We're fighting tooth and nail for Fauci records. Some of the most basic information about very important issues, they're keeping close to their vest in a way that is, let me put it this way, it's illegal. They're supposed to release the records within 20 days. They're not doing it. We have to go to federal court because they're breaking the law. That's the one thing to remember about these FOIA lawsuits. It means an agency broke the law and someone's in court trying to uphold it.
JudicialWatch.org is where you can go to keep Tom's great work going. It's so vital and it's so important, and he's such a great advocate for transparency and making sure that people are held accountable. And I can tell you this, I had a long conversation with Congressman Jim Jordan yesterday down here at CPAC, and he cannot wait to be in charge of one of these committees so that we can get these real investigations into the things that are going on. That's another reason to get that majority back in the House.
We can't do enough to investigate the deep state.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you,
Go back
Tom.
to bed now. Oh, no, wait, you got to keep going.
I will. Thank you, guys.
Are you really going to go back to bed, or you're not starting your day?
I will try. Heather got me just before I was going to go back to bed.
That's why she's the best. Thanks, Tom.